Most of us are haunted by a ghost. It's not a specter from the past, rattling chains of regret, but one from the future, shimmering with idealized promise. It is the ghost of the person we hope to become, the one who is finally confident, fulfilled, financially secure, and at peace. This benevolent ghost, we believe, is our guide, but in reality, it is our captor. We let this future self dictate the terms of our present, turning our life into a perpetual state of waiting. We tell ourselves, I will travel the world when I get the promotion. I will start writing my novel when the kids are grown. I will finally speak my truth when the time is right. I will be happy when ... We live our lives as an eternal dress rehearsal for a grand performance that is perpetually, conveniently postponed. We practice our lines, we adjust our costumes, we wait in the wings, convinced that the real show is just around the corner. But what if there is no dress rehearsal? What if the lights you are standing under right now are the main stage lights? What if tonight is the final act, and the curtain falls not in 50 years, but at dawn? This isn't a morbid fantasy designed to scare you. It is, perhaps, the most potent philosophical tool ever devised for a life of meaning, urgency, and radical clarity. The ancient idea of living as though you might die tomorrow isn't a call for hedonistic, reckless abandon. It is a precise surgical instrument for the soul. It is an invitation to stare into the abyss of our own mortality, not to be consumed by it, but to emerge from it, finally and truly awake. For centuries, the wisest minds in history have argued that this confrontation is the only way to truly begin living. This concept has a name: Memento Mori. It's a Latin phrase that whispers a timeless, terrifying, and ultimately liberating truth: remember you must die. In our modern culture, this sentiment feels alien, even taboo. We are a civilization in denial of its own end. We are obsessed with anti-aging creams, biohacking for longevity, and life extension technologies. We hide death behind the sterile, white walls of hospitals, speaking of it only in hushed euphemisms like passed away, lost, or no longer with us. We treat death not as an inevitability, but as a failure of medicine, a technical problem to be solved. But the great thinkers of the past, the Stoics, the Epicureans, thinkers from every corner of the globe, saw it differently. They did not see Memento Mori as a morbid countdown to doom, but as a life-affirming compass. It is an internal filter, an operating system for the soul, designed with ruthless efficiency to strip away the trivial, the pointless, and the performative. It forces one question to the forefront of every action, every word, every thought. In the grand scheme of my finite existence, does this truly matter? The crippling anxiety you feel over a negative comment from a stranger on the internet, does it matter? The corporate ladder you're desperately climbing at the expense of your health and relationships, does it matter? The simmering resentment you hold onto from a decade-old argument, does it matter? The paralyzing fear of judgment that keeps you trapped in a job you hate, a city you dislike, or a relationship that drains your spirit, does it truly matter in the face of annihilation? This realization isn't meant to induce panic. It's meant to induce focus. It is the ultimate antidote to the most common and most tragic of human ailments: a life lived on autopilot. To truly grasp its power, let us walk with the minds who wrestled with this truth long before our time and see how their wisdom can illuminate our path today. Our first guide is Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. Imagine the weight on this man's shoulders. Ruling one of the most powerful empires in history, he faced constant threats of war, political betrayal, plagues, and the crushing burden of responsibility. His private journal, now known as Meditations, was not written for us, but for himself, a series of self-instructions on how to be a better, more resilient human being. A recurring theme echoes through its pages: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. For Marcus, this was not a depressing thought. It was a clarifying one. It was his secret weapon against the temptations of power and the distractions of triviality. When someone slighted him, he remembered that both he and his offender were mortal. When faced with a difficult decision, he considered how a man who might not see the sunset would act. It stripped away the need for posthumous fame, for the approval of others, for the accumulation of fleeting honors. Death was the great equalizer. In its shadow, the only thing that mattered was acting with virtue, reason, and purpose in the present moment. He reminds us that the fear of death is secondary to the fear of a life not lived according to our own principles. Next, we turn to his fellow Stoic, Seneca the Younger, a man of immense wealth, a playwright, and a political advisor. Seneca was deeply embedded in the chaotic, indulgent world of imperial Rome. From this vantage point, he penned one of the most piercing essays in Western philosophy. On the shortness of life, his central argument is a stunning indictment of how we live. It is not that we have a short time to live, he wrote, but that we waste a great deal of it. He observed with biting clarity how people are painstakingly frugal with their property and money, meticulously guarding their assets. Yet when it comes to their time, the one resource that is utterly irreplaceable, they are extravagantly, almost criminally, wasteful. They give it away freely to anyone who asks, to pointless obligations, to mindless entertainment, to anxieties about a future that may never come. He compared us to people who inherit a vast fortune, but leave the doors to the vault wide open for anyone to take from. Imagine Seneca looking at our world today. He would see our smartphones not as marvels of technology, but as thieves of time designed to siphon away our attention in 1,000 tiny increments. He would see our endless scrolling, our binge watching, our doom scrolling, not as leisure, but as a tragic squandering of our very being. Living as if you'll die tomorrow, for Seneca, means becoming a fierce militant guardian of your hours. It means conducting a ruthless audit of your calendar and your commitments, asking of every activity, is this worthy of a fraction of my one precious life? It means finally understanding that a wasted hour is a form of self-theft that can never be undone. Our journey then takes us to a different school of thought with Epicurus. His name has been unfairly maligned throughout history, now synonymous with a kind of gluttonous hedonism. But the real Epicurus was a philosopher of profound simplicity and tranquility. His ultimate goal was ataraxia, a state of serene calmness, free from disturbance and fear. And the greatest fear he sought to dismantle was the fear of death. His logic was as elegant as it was revolutionary. Death, he stated, is nothing to us. For when we exist, death is not yet present, and when death is present, then we do not exist. You can never experience the state of being dead. You can experience illness, you can experience fear, you can experience the process of dying, but you cannot be conscious of your own non-existence. Therefore, to spend your precious moments of conscious life worrying about a state you will never be aware of is the height of irrationality. It's like spending a sunny day indoors because you are worried about the darkness of midnight. By logically removing the fear of death, Epicurus believed we are liberated to pursue true, sustainable pleasure. Not the frantic, fleeting highs of indulgence and luxury, but the simple, enduring joys, deep friendships, meaningful conversation, the pursuit of knowledge, and a mind at peace. To live like you'll die tomorrow, in an Epicurean sense, is to stop allowing the shadow of a future non-existence to poison the simple, tangible pleasures of the present moment. It is to savor your meal, enjoy your walk, and cherish your friends, not because the world is ending, but because you are living. Let us now step into the more complex, challenging world of 20th century Germany with Martin Heidegger. His philosophy is dense, but at its core is a concept that is profoundly personal: Sein zum Tod, or being towards death. Heidegger argued that most of us live our lives in an inauthentic state. We are absorbed into what he called das Man, or the they. We do what they say we should do. We read what they say we should read. We pursue the careers, lifestyles, and goals that they deem respectable. We become a reflection of societal expectations, a collection of borrowed opinions and secondhand desires. In this state, we are distracting ourselves, forgetting the one single fact about our existence that is uniquely, absolutely, and inalienably our own, our death. No one can die for you. It is the one experience you cannot delegate. Authentic existence, for Heidegger, only begins when we pull ourselves out of the comforting chatter of the they and confront our own finitude. He used the powerful analogy of a deadline. Imagine a student who has an entire semester to complete a critical paper. For months, they drift, procrastinate, and engage in trivial tasks. But in the final 24 hours, an incredible transformation occurs. A state of intense, almost supernatural focus descends. All distractions fall away. The paper becomes the only thing that matters. Its purpose becomes crystal clear. Heidegger argues that death is humanity's ultimate deadline. By authentically acknowledging this deadline, we are jolted out of our complacent, inauthentic slumber. We are forced to ask, is this the life I choose, or is it the life that has been chosen for me? This confrontation with mortality is terrifying, but it is also what makes us free. It is what allows us to finally take ownership of our existence and live a life that is truly our own. Our final guide, Michel de Montaigne, the great French Renaissance essayist, offers a gentler, more humane approach. From his quiet library tower, he turned philosophy into an intimate conversation with himself and his readers. In his famous essay, "To philosophize is to learn how to die," he proposed a radical idea. We should befriend death. We should think about it, talk about it, and observe it in the world without flinching. His reasoning was simple and profound. He who has learned how to die has unlearned how to be a slave. When we live in constant fear of our end, we are easily controlled. We are enslaved by our anxieties. We are afraid to take risks, to speak our minds, to love fully, to leave our comfortable but soul-crushing routines. Fear of death becomes a fear of life. By familiarizing ourselves with mortality, we rob it of its monstrous, terrifying power. It ceases to be an enemy to be vanquished and becomes what it is, a natural, expected, and integral part of life's rhythm, no different than sleep or birth. Montaigne's wisdom for our age would be to stop outsourcing our mortality, to have honest conversations about end-of-life wishes, to see aging not as a disease, but as a process, and to understand that a life lived in courageous acceptance of its end is infinitely richer than one lived in fearful denial. This ancient wisdom has never been more urgent. We live today in an age of manufactured urgency and profound distraction, a perfect storm for a wasted life. Consider the architecture of our digital lives. Social media is a grand stage where we perform a meticulously curated version of ourselves for an invisible and often indifferent audience. We spend hours polishing a digital ghost, a happier, more successful, more adventurous version of ourselves, hoping to earn validation in the form of likes and shares. The Memento Mori mindset shatters this fragile performance. It holds up a mirror and asks, are you building a life, or are you just building a profile? Are you collecting memories, or just manufacturing content? The ephemeral approval of strangers becomes laughably insignificant when measured against the stark reality of your finite time. Consider our culture of relentless consumerism. It operates on a single insidious promise that the next purchase will be the one that finally delivers lasting happiness. The new phone, the faster car, the designer clothes, the bigger house. It creates a hedonic treadmill where we run faster and faster, accumulating more and more, only to find ourselves in the exact same spot emotionally. An awareness of death exposes this entire system as a hollow fantasy. Possessions lose their hypnotic luster when you realize that your final destination has no room for luggage. This doesn't mean we should live in poverty. It means we should shift our focus from accumulating things to accumulating experiences, wisdom, and meaningful connections. And consider the modern hustle culture, a toxic ideology that glorifies burnout as a badge of honor and treats sleep as a weakness. It is a cult of productivity that pushes us to sacrifice our physical health, our mental well-being, and our most precious relationships for a corporate goal or a future payday that is never guaranteed to arrive. Seneca would not just weep. He would be horrified by this collective insanity. To live as if you'll die tomorrow is the ultimate act of rebellion against this mindset. It insists, with quiet defiance, that life is not meant to be endlessly optimized and endured, but to be deeply felt and lived right now, in this very moment. So, how do we weave this profound philosophy into the fabric of our ordinary lives without descending into despair or impulsively quitting our jobs? It is not about a single dramatic gesture. It is about a series of small, consistent, and intentional shifts in perspective. First, conduct what you might call a deathbed regret audit. It's a simple but powerful thought experiment. Take a piece of paper or open a new document. At the top right, if I were to die 1 year from today, what would I regret not having done, said, or tried? Be brutally honest with yourself. What conversation are you avoiding? What apology do you need to make or receive? What creative risk feels both terrifying and absolutely necessary? What small joy have you been endlessly postponing for a someday that may never come? Let the answers be your new, authentic to-do list. This isn't about creating pressure. It's about providing clarity. Second, practice intentional triage. When you wake up, before the digital deluge of emails and notifications floods your consciousness, take just 2 minutes of silence. Ask yourself a single question. What is the one thing I can do today that will bring a genuine sense of meaning or connection? It might not be the most urgent task on your list. It might be calling a parent, writing 1 page of that book, going for a walk without a podcast, or having a device-free dinner with your partner. Learn to distinguish between the truly important and the merely urgent. Acknowledge that most of what screams for your attention is not worthy of your life. Third, and perhaps most beautifully, practice gratitude for the mundane through the lens of impermanence. The Buddhist concept of anicca, or impermanence, teaches that everything is fleeting. This is not a cause for sadness. It is the very thing that makes life precious. Try this small meditation. As you go about your day, occasionally whisper to yourself, "This too shall pass." Not in a dismissive way, but in an appreciative one. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of a loved one's laughter, the quiet comfort of your home at the end of the day. These are all temporary, fleeting miracles. By acknowledging their transient nature, you experience them with a depth, a vibrancy, and a gratitude that is otherwise impossible. It's like seeing the world in high definition for the first time. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epicurus, Heidegger, Montaigne, these brilliant minds, separated by centuries and circumstances, all converged on a single world-altering truth. Death is not life's enemy. It is life's greatest advisor. It is the silent partner in every moment, the unseen frame that gives the painting of our life its shape, its contrast, and its value. Remembering that you will die is not a morbid obsession. It is the ultimate tool for liberation. It frees you from the suffocating weight of other people's expectations, from the sticky chains of procrastination, and from the quiet desperation of a life lived by default. It is the universe's ultimate permission slip to finally be yourself. The wisdom of the ages is not asking you to panic. It is not asking you to be reckless. It is asking you, with profound urgency and love, to awaken. It is asking you to stop saving the good china for guests who may never arrive, to stop waiting for the perfect moment, and to finally start living the life you were meant to live, not in some distant, imagined future, but here, now, today. So the final question is not, what would you do if you had only one day left to live? The real question, the one that truly matters, is this: what will you do tomorrow, now that you know you are truly alive today?